welcome to my podcast. Amma, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling I have a lot of expectations. I think it's going to be an
Expectations. Okay.
interesting conversation. I
Yeah.
always thought that when we if we start recording our conversations, there'll be more structure to it, and we'll also
Mm,
remember what we said and what we didn't say.
yeah,
So I'm really looking forward.
that's true. But sometimes when the camera is rolling, it makes it even harder to have those candid conversations. But
That's true.
I think that's the art of podcasting. You want to make it as natural and authentic as possible. But at the same time, you need to make sure it's curated enough that it appeals to an audience. So that's a hard balance to keep. But anyway, let's just get started. I welcome to the Eternal Dialogues. I've been trying to start something like this for a long time, and I wanted to start with you because I have such great conversations with you. It's it's just endless sometimes when we're just talking and talking. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I wish we recorded that so I can look back at it in the future. Or I just think about how about if it was recorded, we could also get perspectives from other people. So this is just a living room conversation that we're making public. That's what this really is. But I have prepared a few questions, of course, because I want to make sure it's interesting. The conversation is guided in a certain way. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know where it'll go, but we'll see. So let's get right into it. A conversation that I have with you a lot is about parenting and good upbringing. Um, it's something that I've seen you and Appa, my father, you both comment about it so many times when we go to other people's houses. It's something that matters so much to both of you. And now that I'm also in my 20s, I'm also noticing children that could have been raised better. I also have my own perspectives on it. And so we've had so many conversations about this that I thought this is a great topic for our first podcast. So, and just as a disclaimer, I do want to mention that this is not me tooting my horn and saying, "Hey, look at how well I've been raised," and look at the person who's raised me and talk about how I've been raised. No, this is not that at all. I I'm sure you can pick holes in the way I've been raised. You might have your own ideas about it, and I have my own ideas about it. So this is not that, right? This is just us talking um, about upbringing as a third party. We're drawing from our experiences, but at the end of the day, this is just a discussion. It's not a lecture at all. Okay. So the first question I have for you, Amma, is about to start off with the basics, the definition. What is good parenting? And when you were pregnant, I'm sure you had a vision of, how I want to raise my child, right? So what did success look like to you when you were expecting a child? And what is good upbringing?
So the second question first. What was I thinking when I was pregnant? I was actually not really thinking about parenting at all. I was just so excited and I was waiting to shower this baby with lots of love. I felt so much love for the baby even before the baby came out. So that love, and I was experiencing that love and thinking, how can I love this baby who's not even born yet?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was pregnant, I wasn't thinking about parenting at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, what does good parenting look like? I think now, I mean, after so many years of parenting and seeing different kinds of children, differently raised children, I think if I go to the basics, good parenting would be raising a child uh, to adulthood, um, raising the child through all the experiences of life so that the child becomes a responsible, intelligent adult who is able to make out right from wrong, given whatever context, and is both independent and interdependent. So I think both these are very important. And of course, that an adult who is a contributing member of society. So parenting would be all this: raising a child to be a responsible adult who will contribute to society, and there are a whole lot of qualities and attributes that uh, parenting that children should have, which is part of good parenting.
Mm-hmm.
So raising a child to be disciplined, to be curious, because curiosity is a very important aspect. I feel that, I mean, if I go, since I have written a book on India's educational heritage, I have quoted Zhuangzang, who, when he came to India, he said he was very surprised to find children who were very curious, and nobody is pushing them to study, but they were doing it on their own. They were so self motivated, so curious. So disciplined, a sense of curiosity, a sense of gratitude. Gratitude is very important. I think it's a very important part of parenting, wherein a child is learns to feel grateful, and this is the most difficult part of parenting, actually, so that the child doesn't take everything for granted, or rather, when the child becomes an adult, by the time adulthood comes, things are not taken for granted, and there is a sense of gratitude when you get something. Self control and courage, all these things. Self control, because if the quality of self control is not built up during childhood, then later in life it's going to be very hard. You'll be hardwired if you're not able to control your desires, your passions, your feelings, your emotions. Then you become a person who is out of control, and later in life it's too hard. So this is something that parents and teachers, of course, in schools, teachers and parents. Teachers are also extension of parents, and so teaching self control, I feel, is very important. And there are a host of other qualities. If we get down to it, there are so many things that a child needs to have, and parenting has to help in making the child uh, cultivate all those qualities. Um, and then ultimately find the child has to be able to get on in the world when there are no parents around. Ultimately, that's the dream that we all have, that when we are not there, our children are leading happy lives, happy, independent, interdependent lives. I think happiness is something very important. I always thought that I want my child to be very happy. She knows, or he knows, how to be happy, and positive. Because without that, I mean, if you get defeated, and we know that life is hard, there are so many things, so many struggles. We have gone through those struggles, and I particularly had my parents always with me. So,
Mhm.
and even today I have them. I can't think of ever letting them go.
Mhm.
But yeah, we want our parenting should be about helping the child to live happily even when the parents are not there.
Yeah. That reminds me of Michelle Obama's book that we were reading, in which she said, I think her mother's goal was to make sure that they are obsolete one day. Like they are raising their child in such a way that one day they will be, like, the parents will become obsolete.
Okay,
That's the goal, right?
I
You want
see.
to make this child so independent um, that they don't actually need you one day. They'll be happy even if you're not there in their life.
Yes,
Something
though
like
I
that.
won't use the word obsolete. That sounds a
Obsolete.
little
Okay.
strong, too strong, and a little negative. I would want my child to always remember me with joy and happiness when I'm not there,
Mm-hmm.
and take inspiration, take energy from me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we want the child to get on with life, and not be miserable
Mm-hmm.
when there's no parental guidance or support.
Right. Um, I mean, there are all these great things that you have talked about about what a child should have. But one thing is, I've seen a lot of parents just telling their child, be honest, be kind, be all these great qualities, just telling them to have these qualities because it's good. But that's clear, that's not good parenting, right? Just telling them, because each child is so different. And you have to somehow show to them with I guess you could say stories, or find different innovative unique ways of passing on these qualities without just saying do this, do that. Because I know that sometimes, when we go to some parents houses, this is something we've talked about before, but there'll be a child who's not speaking to us, maybe, right? And then the mother will come in and say, go child, go talk to beta, uske sath baat karo, like talk to this
Mm.
this auntie who has come, why are you not talking,
Yeah.
right? It's similar. It's like parents just saying do this, and that doesn't usually work, because there's no way a child, if their mother is coaxing them to talk, there's no way they're gonna start talking and being super outgoing with these guests who have come to their house, right? It's I know you don't do that. So you find other and unique ways to make sure that I open up, instead of telling me, "Hey, go talk to them."
Yeah.
So I guess that's the next question, is how do you I guess how what are all these unique ways and tools you can use to try to get these qualities in your children. And it's going to be different for each quality. You talked about courage, discipline. It's probably a different method for each quality you're trying to um, pass on.
True. It's really hard. You can't just tell a child to do this and do that, be this or be that.
Yeah.
It's very hard. Yeah, that is a challenge we face all our lives. How do we get this message across to the child? We have told the child, but he doesn't, she or she doesn't know how to do this. Yeah, so that's when innovation. That the parents need a lot of innovation. They have to, even if one thing works, it may not work all the time. So you have to keep changing everything. When it comes to nutrition, like you're feeding the child something, one day the child will like it, the next day it will not like that, and but you still have to make the child eat. So what do you do? So innovation comes in all the time. Now things like curiosity. Now that was very important for me, that are curious about things. So for guests, like especially we talk a lot about children not talking to guests.
Yeah.
I think that happens because we are first of all living in a world of distractibility, right? So there are so many devices that these children are looking at all the time. So they are in the midst of some game, they are doing something, doing a video game or something. So they don't want to be disturbed. So we have to start from there. I mean, you have got them addicted to all these things, which was a little lesser when you were growing up, but today it's absolutely a pandemic, this addiction. So you have to find ways to control that. And then, when guests come to the house, what I did was that I would tell you something about those guests.
Yeah.
It's very important that when somebody comes to visit, if you know they are coming, why not create some interest in the child about the person who's coming, talk about their background, and if they are childhood friends, talk about what happened in childhood with them, or if there's something about the state that they come from, the language that they speak, some accent that they have, you could even talk about that. So I use that technique a lot with you. Whenever guests came, I would tell you something about their profession, or I would tell you something interesting or funny also about them, and that would make you always sit and listen. So that was one of the things I did. But of course, curiosity is about many other things. So even when parents and children go out somewhere to a restaurant to eat, or they go somewhere else, the parents should know how to evoke curiosity in the child if the child doesn't have it. Like, ask questions. Why do you think this is happening? What do you think that is? So I remember my father, when we used to go on train journeys, we used to go for holidays, we'd go by train, and Appa would always show something from the window and ask me, what do you think that is? What is that? And he would give me many chances to think about it, and then he would give me the answer. So, and then I would try to do the same with him, ask him something and see if he knows the answer. So it became a game. So, and by itself, I was increasing my knowledge, because I was increasing, my father's technique was increasing my knowledge, and I kept that in mind, and that I use that with you a lot, right? Asking questions, not giving the answers. And similarly, when they ask you questions, try to lead them on to the answers, which is it's an age-old technique in ancient Indian education systems, where the guru would never give straightforward answers. So if you can bombard the guru with questions, but the guru will not give you ready-made answers. The guru will then give you a task, which will help to get the answer to you. So that way, curiosity. The other quality of discipline you mentioned, how do you inculcate discipline? That's hard. Some children are very amenable to being disciplined, some others are not. One way is, of course, the parents themselves have to be disciplined. They have to work on themselves first. You can't now yourself be, not having food at the right time, or, lying sprawled on the sofa watching TV when you're having your food, and then you're telling your child not to watch TV while eating. So the thing is that first of all, the parents have to be disciplined. They themselves have to become role models worthy of emulation. Then comes the task of teaching discipline. So there has to be a format. There has to be a lifestyle right from the beginning when the child is small, wherein there's a bedtime where you sleep early and then maybe wake up early by sunrise. And then when the sun rises, there is we Hindus, we of course have lots of shlokas, lots of chants that we say at different times of the day, related to something we are grateful about, or taking strength from the sun in the morning. So I think it's a very, very good practice to make a child wake up early in the morning and chant those mantras to the sun, the Surya Devta. So that helps immensely in having that discipline. And then, you all those the rituals that we have, a lot of prayers that we have, they are all actually helping with discipline. The chanting we do before eating, then the evening, that sunset, we do some chanting, while having a bath we do some chanting. All those things can be a part of the disciplined lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So discipline, that's how you bring it in.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, sometimes you'll have to be a little strict about it if the child is not listening.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a little bit of coercion, but you try to explain to the child. You try to explain to the child that this is the right way to do things, and then it works. You might have to use carrot and stick method. You might have to give some rewards.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to tell stories. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. There's no one way of inculcating discipline, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
Same thing with self control. So the way we did it in our culture is through stories, through games, okay, through role models. So we would, of course, nowadays they say comparisons are not a good thing. That you should not say, look at that child
Yeah.
does it, and you should copy that child. Now that may not work with all the children. It used to work with me. Like my mother,
Mm-hmm.
if she pointed out somebody else and said, look at that child, I would not take it averse. I would say, okay, let me see. But
Mm.
but typically comparisons don't work. So you have to there is a way of giving. You have to use psychology, a bit of psychology maybe,
Yeah.
and then that's the way you will bring in self control. And because in today's world, where there if you don't have self control, that it's even more hard. The consequences of not having self control are worse today than they were, say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The sugary food, social media, all these things. So 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we didn't have social media.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have control over how much time you spend on social media, the consequences are worse today than it was before, right? It will
Yeah.
lead to completely bungling up in your grades, and affecting your health and so many things. So I don't have ready-made answers here, but I think we have to be innovative. But each of these things that were the virtues that you want in your child,
Mm-hmm.
you need to use different techniques. But definitely storytelling and games can be used in any situation.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of thoughts because you've covered so many things. Starting with the point about curiosity,
Hmm.
I remember when we would go to different restaurants, you had an innovative way of making me pay attention to the world around me. Because sometimes I would ask for your phone. At
Mm.
those times we had, I don't know, that Nokia phone with that snake game, um, and so that's the game I wanted to play. But then you would try to distract me for it instead of just keeping the phone away from me
Mm.
and saying you cannot use this. You would say something like, okay, imagine in 1 hour there's a crime that takes place here in this restaurant and you are being called to discuss or observe, point out your observations. Who did you see? So close your eyes and then tell me, you know, what you saw in this restaurant. And I would close my eyes and you would start asking me questions. And I thought that was really interesting because now it forced me to observe my surroundings a lot more. So I would remember if I go into a restaurant, oh, that the waiter was wearing a red shirt. So if there's a crime scene later on, I'll be able to tell the
Yes,
police
yes.
this thing or that thing. So you gamified
Mm.
the whole experience for me. So I wouldn't need to ask for a phone.
Mm. I
Um,
also did that with your, when I taught you subjects when in
yeah.
school.
Hmm.
I made you set question papers for me.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah, so
great.
I would, in studies, to make you get good grades, I would of course teach you the chapter. But then in the earlier, I would ask you to solve questions. Then I thought of this way of making you set question papers for me. And that was really nice. I mean, you would give me
Yeah,
fill in the gaps and all that, and you would,
I really enjoyed that.
and
Because
you
I
would
wanted
give,
to fail you, so
yeah.
I would read up to make sure that I can come up with a question
Yes,
that I
yes, yes.
can. It was crazy. I would make questions like the blank is the blank of the blank 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 because I
Yeah,
wanted you to fail that.
yes, yes, yes. So, but I
So
know
that
you
was
had lots of fun grading me and grading
giving
girls.
you like
Yes, yes.
I don't know, 0 out of
Yeah.
30 or
But
something.
there are many other ways. I'm sure there are many other
Um,
ways. And for a different kid, you have to use some other way.
yeah,
But then you have to find that button to press, which is going to work with this child.
exactly.
But you should know. The other problem is that parents themselves do not know much. Sometimes that happens. So they
Mm.
don't know enough to be able to teach. So that is also a gap. So it's a
That's
lot about
interesting.
the parents themselves being being well read, well educated, and they should have also discussed this with many other parents about
Mm-hmm.
what are the techniques that they use. All these things have to be done,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so today I find that a lot of parents are themselves not well informed about so many things,
Mm-hmm.
and that leads to problems.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that, I guess, that goes hand in hand with respect. That's another topic of, a discussion that we've had, is that children, like, I guess we are talking about Indian kids, right? Hindu kids,
Mm.
they don't respect their parent enough.
Mm.
So they dismiss, or the ones I've noticed, this is just an anecdotal experience, but they dismiss what their parents have to say. And I think a lot of that dismissing comes from a lack of respect. Like, you've come from India, you you don't know what I'm talking about. You don't understand my experience. You grew up in a different atmosphere, and I'm growing up in a different atmosphere, so you don't get me, right? And because of that, you don't get me thing, it goes into, like, you have not lived what I've lived, and so I don't. There's a lack of respect that comes because of that,
Mm.
and that's a huge issue. I've seen that amongst Hindu kids, dismissing what their parents have to say, and that can also be tied into what you just mentioned about lack of education. So maybe the parents have not done enough to command the respect of their kids.
Yes. So there's a process of self development that parents also have to go through.
Yeah.
If they want to get the respect of their children,
Mm-hmm.
respect is one thing that can never be commanded. Nobody, not just
Yeah.
parents. You can't ever tell anyone, respect me and get respect. It doesn't work like that. So, especially with children, parents have to become respect worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, they have to do all that. And at the same time, they need to understand what the child is going through. So,
Mm-hmm.
respect and love both are needed. So the parent has to be very close to the child first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So the child and parent have to be very close, telling things to each other. So when the parent starts sharing life experiences, her or his life experiences with the child,
Mm-hmm.
then the child will come to know a lot of things about the parent. Like, when I was young, this happened. Tell the stories of your life to the
Mm-hmm.
child. That helps with bonding, and that also helps the child to know about what struggles you have gone through. But of course, what parents do is they do talk about that, and they say, look, I went through all that and you don't have all those problems, so you
Yeah.
shouldn't. Yeah, so that what you brought out, I learned it from you. Maybe I was doing that to you as well, and you did tell me that, Amma, in India you didn't have this, but here in America it's different. So yeah, we have to be open to being educated by our children as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that respect comes from all that. So when the child sees that my father or mother is listening to me, is giving respect to me, then the child will give that respect back as well.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that doesn't mean yielding to everything the child says, but having that dialogue, treating the child as a mature person. From day one, you should actually treat the child as a little adult, actually.
Yeah.
So you can. I used to love to converse with you, and I generally like to talk to young children,
Mm-hmm.
just to know what they are thinking. So you should not talk down to them. Talk to them like equals, but of course use a language that they understand. So when you talk to the child, share your experiences. Oh, I felt so scared that day when this happened. Now the child also knows, and the child starts trusting you, and that's when the child will take your opinions. The child will respect you. But yes, one very important thing is to read up a lot about, if you can do it, read up, because your child is also judging you. When the child comes from school, the child now knows a lot of things from school, and if the child finds you don't know anything about these things, right? So then that disrespect starts coming,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think parents also have to try and keep in pace with the child's learning if possible. But other times when it may not be possible, the child might be studying some very complicated subject, especially as we go into high school.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the disconnect happens. The child is going into some subject which, and we have studied long ago, and now a lot of advances have happened in that subject. So then it might be a little hard. But I would say the parents should try their level best to be at that intellectual level where they can converse with the child, and then the child will think that the parent is cool. My I can talk about this, anything, any complex thing I'm studying, thermodynamics, whatever, hydraulics, whatever I'm studying, I can actually discuss it with my father and mother. um, I mean, this is an ideal case. It may not happen every time, but at least if you are open to learning from the child, I feel the respect will come.
Mm-hmm.
And then when there's a strong opposition from the child to to something like, no, this is not the way, this should not be done that way, then I think you cannot force or coerce. You have to make the child open her heart and talk,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if the child is hell bent on doing something that you feel that is not really needed, using strong coercion is going to lead to further erosion of whatever respect is there. So sometimes I think we have to give in. It's a fine balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's that giving in sometimes and then tightening the reins the other time. So there's no formula for this, but I think we can try. We can um, try having a conversation with the child, and try to understand the child's world. What exactly is, many times children are not able to express. This is another problem. The parents have to be very astute. They have to be very sensitive to knowing what's going on in the child's life, because the child might be giving some reason for some action, but that might not be the real reason. So they have to be very perceptive. They
Yeah.
have to be very understanding. So a lot of things go into getting this respect and understanding. I think I have been lucky with you in many ways, but I know that it's also different with girls and boys. Boys might demand more independence, and also would not like any kind of interference in many things, because that is how the society is also, where manliness is to be able to do whatever you want to do and not be controlled. So it's going to be harder in those situations. So, but yes, it's very important to have that dialogue going. At no point should it be that the child now cannot come to the parent and confide or say what's going on, or be honest. It should never happen. And in that context, I want to tell you that Amma used to always tell me that, my Amma,
Yeah.
she would sometimes, when I would get so angry with you and I would scream at you for something you did wrong, and then Amma told me, if you keep doing that, she'll hide things from you. She'll not tell you when she does something, she breaks something, because she knows you're going to scream. So then she told me that, and that really hit me hard. Because I knew if whatever wrong I do, whatever I mess up, I can go to my mother and tell her that I did this, and I know that I don't mind being scolded, but I have to tell her that, right? So I wanted that same relationship with you. And that's why I was always scared that I shouldn't be that tantrum thrower, tantrum throwing mother to whom a child cannot come and tell the truth.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Yeah. Yeah, you've definitely shared a lot of your life with me, and I think that is a huge part of why I feel so close to you. So I know about your successes, your failures, and you also talked a lot about what you did right, what you did wrong, um, why you should have done something differently. You would tell me stories of your friends, like, oh, this person started dating in high school and this is what happened to their grades, blah blah blah. Just, I don't know, there would be things you would tell me, and I would, it's a way of kind of imparting something to me without actually telling me, don't date someone or giving me those commands. So I think sharing your life was a great way of imparting a lot of lessons to me. Another thing you mentioned about respect, I definitely respected you a lot because I had a chance to see your interactions with the outside world a lot. So I saw you working, I saw you mixing with people from different cultures and having great conversations with them. Like, I could see that they respected you, so that would make me in turn also respect you back. But not every mother or father has that. I guess it's hard to say because they don't maybe, not every mother works, for instance, so they're in the kitchen maybe all the time. And not every mother can be at the same intellectual level as their kid, or be that engaged, or even father for that matter, not just mothers. So how can we, this is something that's different from one parent to another, is all I'm saying. I'm just trying to think about what they can do.
No,
Like,
good
how
point,
can
I
that
think.
parent be respected? Because I know I respected you a lot because you were not in the kitchen all the time. But what if you were?
Yeah.
Would I still have respected you the same way?
Well, my mother was. My
Okay.
mother was a homemaker,
Mm-hmm.
and she would be mostly in the kitchen, but then not mostly in the kitchen, because It's also, I think, the dynamics between the father and mother, that I saw
Okay.
my father giving a lot of respect to my mother.
Mm-hmm.
So he would even take my tantrums, but he would not allow me to speak to Amma in a disrespectful way.
Mm.
These kind of things, the how the parents, and similarly, Amma would not really like it if I said anything bad about Appa. So the way the husband wife respect each other will also reflect on the child's respect for them. That was one thing. So Amma
Mm.
was often in the kitchen; she'll be cooking, but I would say that Appa is respecting that,
Okay.
right? The fact that she's doing all that, and then he would give her a break from time to time. We would go out to eat because he doesn't want her to strain herself too much. And then I would see that Amma read a lot. So
Okay.
Amma was always reading. When she was not in the kitchen, she would be reading, and then we would be discussing books. So the thing is, you need to have those discussions with. So the I think it's the more points of more areas of discussion there can be, the better it is. So maybe it's not just about intellectual level that comes from reading, but it's also about how they have observed life as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Amma, of course, would talk about the books she read, but the stories that she told me would be about her observations from life. So that and what she has observed, what happened, and then what she has learned from her parents. I don't know. I think I the respect just came uh, because I never found her lacking in intelligence or anything like that. Like I
Okay.
found her very, very intelligent, very perceptive. So maybe I'm wrong in saying that it comes from being very, very updated about everything. But
Mm-hmm.
I think there has to be an attempt by the parent to be as updated as possible.
Okay.
So especially in today's world, so you should know something about what's going on around in the world. It's
Mm-hmm.
not hard to read the papers to know current affairs, what's going on around in the world, right? Even if you don't read, you can listen. Today's now is the age of podcasts and radio shows, TV, so on. Like one example is my mother-in-law. She would know everything about current affairs.
Mm.
So I could easily have any conversation with her about political things. Like she would know who is the current chief minister in any state, what's going on in the state. She would be watching the news. So it's about how much have you tried to be updated and to increase the frontiers of your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That would be noted by the child, that this
Yeah.
person is trying to know more. I mean, she is doing the kitchen work, of course, but that shouldn't be taking the whole day. There is a lot of work, no doubt, but you can still try to expand the frontiers of your knowledge. I think
Yeah.
that helps in getting respect from the children.
Yeah, and I am by no means, I don't want to disrespect any housewife or homemaker
Hmm.
in any way.
Hmm.
It's just that I if
No,
you are in the kitchen
hmm.
at all times, it's
Hmm.
hard for you to
Hmm.
further your knowledge. And I agree, it's not just working that makes you someone who can command respect. You can not work and still find a way to be updated by, again, listening to podcasts
And
and
same
all of
thing, the
that. So
working mothers also might actually they might be doing some job which is a boring, repetitive job, and they might
yeah,
not know much about the world. And it's possible that their children don't really want to converse with them.
yeah. No, because I have seen some friends whose mothers are homemakers,
Hmm.
and the only relationship the children have with their parent is, oh, they make amazing food.
Hmm.
I miss my mom's food, but there's nothing beyond that. It's just I miss my mom's food.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel that's one kind of limited relationship that they have. Even I have seen a
exactly.
lot of that because the
Hmm.
mothers have been so busy ensuring that the children get the best kind of food, all the preparing all the favorite dishes, that they really haven't had conversations on other subjects. Now, my mother was a homemaker, but we used to discuss art, music, so many things. I mean, everything on earth, the
Yeah.
feelings, my favorite books, so movies. I mean, movies, we would have so many discussions on how that movie could have been better made, what
Hmm.
could have been a better ending.
Yeah.
So there are endless topics where you can actually converse, but it's important to be close to the child at every level possible. Emotional level, intellectual level. All those things go a long way in having a good harmonious relationship.
Yeah, so it's about having things you can converse with your child
Hmm.
about. It's about having shared interests.
Hmm.
Um, so there was this video by Jordan Peterson that I remember watching a few weeks back, in which I guess the title of the video is "Raising Kids You Actually Like."
Hmm.
There's some things he talks about in the video, but I won't go into it. What stood out to me was just the title of the video, that raising kids you actually like. What does that mean? Obviously, in from what I'm getting from your from your relationship with Nani, my grandmother, and my relationship with you, we have a lot of shared interests. We like the same kinds of movies. We like the same kind of books, the same kind of music, the same kind of food. So there's a lot of things that we do together and that we like together. So my next, that actually leads to another dilemma of sorts. Are you raising kids to like the same things you like by exposing them to all of the things that you like early on? Or do you try to ensure that your kid develops their own type of taste? Because I'm going to admit, sometimes I watch a movie and I don't know if I actually like the movie. I just know that my mom likes it. And so, and my mom, she didn't tell me to like it. I'm not saying you forced it down my throat, but my mom has talked about this movie so much that I think I should like it. I don't know if I would actually like this independently. Like a lot of Satyajit Ray movies, for instance. I know you've showed them to me. They're really good. But sometimes in my head, I'm thinking, would I actually have like loved this movie if my mom hadn't loved this movie? So something like that is something I grapple with. And I want to know your opinion on it.
I don't completely agree that you and I have the same taste, because you
Okay.
watch Game of Thrones and you love it, and I couldn't even bear it beyond the first season. I mean, there's so many TV shows that we totally differ on, right? Um, yeah, but then it's more like you know why I like certain things. If I like
Yeah.
old film songs, then I tell you that I like the song because it has this kind of music that I like. It's classical. So and so is playing the sitar, the meaning of this song. I discuss those things with you, so you know why I like it. And in a way, that is the part of the conversation that we had.
Yeah.
I, but it's true that I'm a bit of a dominating person, so maybe I've had that kind of influence on you. But I feel that you don't agree with everything that I say. I mean, so many times you have not liked the movies that we have seen together. Yes, the good thing is we like to watch movies together. We like to watch
Yes.
movies together. Um, Appa also, we three of us, right? We
Mm-hmm.
all watch movies, then we critique them. We have fights over them. We don't necessarily all like exactly the same movies. So many times you don't want to watch black and white movies with me because you say
Yeah.
today I'm not in the mood for a black and white old movie, right? You say
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I don't want to watch something and you watch it all by yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's an activity. There should be shared activities where we like to go to movies, concerts together, or we like to go to the temple together. There should be some two or three or four activities that we like to do together. That really helps in bonding. And you said what? That a child is like a friend that we are creating for
Yeah, I feel like
ourselves.
it's a friend. Yeah, exactly. That you're creating for
Friend.
yourself. It's
And why not? I
yeah.
mean, why not? I mean, this is the way we are. The child will become a friend. Initially, the child we will have that parent-child relationship. It's also said in the Hindu Shastra, Sanskrit Shastras, that eventually that child will become a friend. So you're creating a friend for yourself. Why not? Right? So, parents and children should be best friends. So I think that's an amazing thought that we are doing it. There should not be coercion, there should not be compulsion, but there will be influence. And that's unavoidable. And I don't see why one should be overthinking whether, oh, am I influenced by my parents or am I thinking this for myself?
Mm-hmm.
Because there shouldn't be that kind of grappling. So if you feel that you're not liking something independently, then you should be able to express it and you do it. So I'm not sure why you grapple with those thoughts.
No, something. So
Uh,
yeah, of course, Game of Thrones is something I watched later on in life. It's not like you had an opinion on it and then I
no, but
had a
you
different
tried your
opinion
level
from
best to make me like it. I couldn't see it beyond the first season. I just all the violence and the sex and
yeah, of
then the
course,
perversions.
of course, in a way, I evolved my own taste.
Hmm.
But there's some things that I just will never know whether I like them because you like them or
And
not.
take your own the matters of fashion. Like you are so different from
Yeah,
me, right?
of
The way
course.
I dress, the jewelry I wear. If I get them for you, you don't wear them. You have a totally different sartorial sense.
Yeah.
So I feel that you have your own tastes. But yes, maybe when it comes to music, the music that you've heard growing up, that'll be the music that I liked, and I
Yeah.
can't avoid that. I mean, why would
Mm-hmm.
I not play the music that I like, right? So that would have created that kind of a base for you where you like a certain kind of music, which I do too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Now there's certain criticisms I think of of other mothers in our social circles who, not criticism, or like the way they raise their children is in such a way that they're proud when their child is not like them, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if any of them are have a close relationship with their kids, but you mentioned that they love it when their child is different. Like, oh, they're very proud that their child doesn't like the same music as them or doesn't watch the same movies as them. Like, they feel as if their child has developed their own independent taste, and they're proud of it.
I find that crazy. I mean, how can you be so proud of the fact that my child and I are so very different, and that shows that we both have completely independent minds. I don't know. It should not be that. That should not be a conscious way that it happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in the case in my family, me, Amma, and my sister, we three often, very often, we agree on the same thing. Agree on things like we like the same things. We like similar kinds of movies or saris, or the same thing in a movie will touch all of us, right? Now that has been mocked sometimes, and I don't know why. It's because we have evolved into that state of companionship, and so we
Yeah.
are like that. Why should that be looked down upon? And of course it is possible that maybe it could have been that one of us has doesn't like something, and that also is there. It's not an absolute thing. uh, in my case, there are times when I have liked something and my parents have not, my sister has not, and so on. But yeah, I mean, that kind of harmonious relationship, that kind of agreement on a lot of things, I don't think it should be seen negatively or positively.
In fact, it
It doesn't
shows that you've
matter.
spent a lot of time together, that this happens on its own. Like husband and wives, they,
Mhm.
after certain years, like 10 or 20 years of marriage, they also take the taste of their partner, right?
Yes, that happens.
So that just shows closeness.
Yes, that happens.
It's not something that's coerced. It just
Yeah.
shows that the three of you are closer to each other than maybe the other mothers and their kids
No, I
are.
think this is a new phenomenon where they want to show that we all are different. We all have our choices, and we are exerting our choices. So it's something in that context. I think some people are proud that the mother is proud that the daughter is so different from her, and so on. But otherwise, I don't see much sense in that. I mean, whatever happens should happen naturally, right? But there should always be that love and that bonding. It should be
Mhm.
there. And sometimes there should also be that level of tolerance. Like, for example, I may not want to see some movie that I may not want to see a movie, but maybe you like it a lot, and for your sake, I'll see it with you. That should also be there.
Right.
That kind of bonding should also be there.
This great conversation. I'm enjoying it. But I do want to shift gears and go into some of the questions that I thought of. So, what is the best part about parenting?
Ah, okay. I think the best part would be it's like being born again. So, we have led a certain life and we have become something. Now, when the child comes, it's like you see yourself in the child. Of course, you resemble me a lot when you were a baby, and you resemble your father also many times. So, parents feel like we are born again. That is the best part about parenting, that a new wave of life comes into us, right? Again, a friend. Again, as the child grows up, the child becomes more and more of a friend. That is
Mhm.
an amazing part about parenting. The other thing is what you learn from parenting. You become somebody else. Before you were born, I was so impatient. Even though my name means patience, but after going through motherhood, raising you, I became so patient. So motherhood forces you to learn certain things which you would not have learned if you hadn't gone through the process. So maybe that's why in grihastashrama is very important. When you go through that,
Explain what Grihas Ashrama is.
grihastashrama is a phase when there are four ashramas in Hindu dharma. So the first phase is brahmacharya, and the second is grihastashrama. So brahmacharya is the student period. Grihastashrama is the period when you marry and you have children, you settle down, right? That's a very important phase of life. So when you go through that, so when you become parents, that's when a lot of you learn so much. You would not have learned all that. The sense of responsibility. Again, your parents would have told you. Parents will say, "Be responsible, be responsible." But that responsibility hits you when you become a parent, right? So it's like learning so much. I learned so much by being a parent. So I think there's so many things that learning, rejuvenation. You become rejuvenated. You live life again, and then you find a friend. These are the three good things about
And you
it.
get rid of ego.
You get rid of ego. Yes, absolutely. There's no way you can say, okay, I am not going to succumb to this. I will do exactly as I want. The child will force you. The child's needs will force you to give up your ego, right? So if you're somebody who's very particular about how you dress and all that, and when a child comes, you won't even get time to comb your hair. And I remember when you were a baby, I wouldn't even get time to cook for myself, right? So that's a time when you're forced to become organized. You're forced to think of innovative ways. So a lot of learning comes just by becoming a parent.
You learn to put something, another life over yours. Like you get
Yes,
rid
yes,
of that
yes, yes.
selfishness.
Yes. That's what it is.
Hmm.
Suddenly now you are not the most important person. And so that's how you lose ego. So you get patience, you lose ego, you think of something beyond you, so many things.
Right. And so it's an experience everyone should try to have.
Absolutely,
Right.
you should try to have. And if you cannot conceive in the natural way, then go for adoption, go for other ways. But again, it has to come with a caveat. There are some people who don't want children,
Okay.
and I respect that. Because sometimes when I see really bad parents, I think, why did they even have children? If they don't have patience, they have not allowed parenthood to teach them anything, then perhaps they should not have become parents. So that caveat should also be there. But in the larger sense, parenthood does help people to grow, and it's a very fruitful and very fulfilling exercise.
Hmm. I think it's also very mature to know that you don't want to have kids. I know we met
Hmm.
a girl recently who is very sure about that, and it's not from a place of ego, like, oh, if I have
Hmm.
a child, I won't get to do the things I want to do. I won't be able to work, and I won't be able to reach the highest places in terms of ambition. So it wasn't coming from there. She just knew that she wouldn't be a good parent.
Yes, I think
And
that's
so that
amazing.
was
If you know that,
interesting. Yeah.
if you are sure that, if you really know that, great.
Yeah. She
I
knows what
understand.
it takes to raise a child, and she didn't think she had that in
Yeah,
her.
that's actually
That's
being
fine.
responsible as well.
Exactly.
Mm.
So I thought that was interesting that we met someone like that. But thank you so much. This was a great conversation, and I think that we can maybe do a part two. There's still so much we want to talk about, like as Indian Hindu immigrants in America. There's the discussion about parenting has become all the more important because now you're also trying to raise children who are rooted and have that civilizational connectedness. So that should be a part two, I think.
Sure.
But thank you for doing this first podcast.
Thank you. Thank you too.